Good morning to you, good day to you, good evening to you. Whatever time of day it is that you're watching this, I wish you the absolute best. My name is Freed. Welcome to The Art of Being Freed. This is a show that focuses on growth mindset for creators. And today I am energized to be joined by the wonderful Electric. You may know her as Electra. You may also know her as Dream. She's a speaker, an artist consultant, creator of the visual community for artists, exclusively for artists. Respect the artist. Please welcome to The Art of Being Freed, Dream. Dream, also known as Electra. It is great to have you. Welcome to The Art of Being Freed.
It's a pleasure being here. And thank you for such an amazing intro, Freed. Yes.
Thank you so much. I was awesome. Like, how am I gonna put this together? Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you making some time to connect. We've connected off and on for many years. And we're going to talk a lot about art today. We're certainly going to talk about the business of art. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on AI as well. Yeah. So we'll kind of, because there's a lot in the art world, and you are very much involved in it. And I'm really curious as we dive in just to get a bit more information from you on the types of feedback that you get from different artists. So we'll dive right into the first question here. I'd like to know about your journey as an artist, because you talk so confidently, so eloquently. How did you find your voice? And what challenges did you face to get to the point of comfort where you could speak to people's hearts when it comes to art?
That's a good question. You're about to get a robust answer for that. So I have to be completely, of course, transparent in answering this. And this may not be every artist's vibe to hear this. But as far as speaking confidently is concerned, that is a gift. Okay. That's something that comes extremely natural for me. However, that is not the act of simply opening your mouth and speaking is not to be confused with speaking confidently. And that's where I had to get a lot of practice over the years, is to speak confidently. So I've never had a problem getting in front of an audience. Matter of fact, I would feel a bit odd sitting in the audience as opposed to being in front. That felt more natural for me. However, going back to like those differences, really getting clear on your intent and what you're communicating, that helps build confidence. You're not going to get it right the first time. And the artists that I have consulted over the years, classes that I've taught, all of these different trainings, that's something that is the homework for each individual. Okay. So there's that aspect as far as like speaking confidently and finding my voice and things like that. Finding your voice is more than just the act of it. It's really doing some deep diving and some homework within. So my history as a visual artist, that's something I've always enjoyed too. I think both performance art and visual art, like it's just always been a thing, right? But as I we can package it up and summarize it by saying I've always loved art, dived into it as a kid and carried that out throughout my life. However, as I got older, the percentage of my time dedicated to those passions got smaller. And so about my teenage years, once I graduated high school, and this was a huge blessing. I got a position working in the government. And so it was like grocery retail. So I worked in a commissary. And for those that don't know, it's like military grocery stores that are all over the world. Okay. So I started working in there. Labor job, stocking shelves, cleaning the warehouse. And then, I got my forklift license. So if you can just imagine me working in the warehouse. Yeah. That's what I was doing. Labor type of jobs. And I have a special appreciation for people who have service jobs that require labor, where you are like tired at the end of the day. You're like, I have worked and sweat today and I'm tired. So I understand that. but I grew in the ranks, got into a management intern when I graduated from college, and all of that. I started to move into management, continuing to move up the ranks. I became an instructor, a certified instructor, and one of the youngest instructors in the entire world of commissaries. So I was in my 30s, and now I was teaching people customer service, marketing, sales, all of that. And I was traveling. So I was this celebrity within the world of the commissaries. That's the best way I can describe it. I was in the magazines. I was all like, it was a big thing. So I had to give that backstory to explain so you understand how much time is needed to move up the ranks like that. You got to be dedicated. You got to be hardcore. And so that percentage of time of my life dedicated to engaging in visual arts and my passion with that was a lot smaller. But what it did was enhance my experience for speaking and teaching. And that was very powerful then, and has helped me immensely when it comes to business. So that's just a little background there. I hope that answered your question. Yeah. And I've always loved engaging in visual arts, but my path is my path, and so I really had to learn a lot of lessons when it came to business and teaching, communicating, dealing with people, and I say those things because when I'm working with artists, those are some of their hangups. They're like, I don't like talking to people. You got to understand, I'm an introverted artist. I don't like, and it's like, we work through those. We have those conversations. So yeah, that has been my path. And so I'm really blessed to say that I've transitioned into being an entrepreneur. And that has also been a lot of lessons learned in order to make sure revenue is continuing to be generated for respect to artists and our community and to thrive. So we about to unpack that one, because that's a lot of different lessons than the aspect of being an instructor, what I just shared earlier. And in that world of learning business, as opposed to being an entrepreneur, it's a lot of similarities, but it has its differences too.
That's amazing. The background. I had a structure of all these questions I was going to ask, but like I said before, once I get that first answer, it's like, okay, wait, what? So
yes, first of all, more will be revealed.
Yeah. So that's amazing. So there was a lot of reinventing, I suppose. Where did art come in? And we're going to certainly go into the business side. Yeah. So you've got this structure. You're speaking.
Lots of structure.
Right. And specifically coming from a government entity. How did you mix that? You said you've always been into visual arts. Where did art come in? Like, where did art become the dominating factor? Like, hey, I'm going to go from the commissary, the queen of commissaries, to, to the art. Like, where did that shift come?
I love this because this is the first conversation that I have ever had about this, like publicly, like a full-blown conversation. So, nice. Yes, the unveiling. Yeah, this is it here, Freed. So I had mentioned, or I started off by saying I've always loved art, whether that's visual or performance, right? Yes. The percentage got smaller when I started working for the commissary. So as I was working in the commissary, and this is something a lot of artists do, they find pockets to express themselves, right? So I'll give you an example. When I stocked the shelves and I was allowed to create a display, I would get creative with it, right? So I'm sorting things out by color. I'm doing signs, like I've painted signs and things like that. I was known as the artist in the store. It's like, oh, Electra's good at art. Go get Electra. She can do a sign. Go get Electra. She could, different creative things. So that's what I was doing in the meantime. Now I'm going to rewind a little bit. At the early part of my career in the commissary, where I was still doing labor jobs, I was also in college. So I was, and my major was graphic design, visual communications. And then I got my bachelor's in that. And then I got my master's in management. So, which has also helped me immensely too. But I was still in the world of visual arts, but for studies at the early part. And after I was done, or after I graduated, now I was more into my own business. So I started my own business, getting paid to do graphic design, getting paid to do graphic t-shirts. Explaining all of this lets you know, once again, how much like time and energy has to be dedicated, because I want to move up the ranks and I want to do business. And it was challenging, you know, and yes, it did take, I had to segment my personal life, you know, so I'm trying to make sure I have time with my family and friends, and I'm trying to make a lot of things happen. And that's why when, you know, talking to artists, it's so important that we gauge our time and our energy. And I pushed through a lot. I was very stressful at those times. But to answer your question, art was always in there, but it was more so running in the background. You know, it was running in the background. I was trying to do business and learn these different lessons with business while trying to move up the ranks and while working full time. And it was a lot. It was just a lot going on. So art was still in the picture, but running in the background.
Okay. So with that said, you're making your art and it's showing in creative ways, even in roles that don't necessarily require it. So
right.
At some point, respect the artist becomes a thing. And this is how I found out about you, because I was just scrolling through Instagram and I saw this thing that said the Oprah of art. So we might fast forward a little bit, because I remember saying to myself when I saw that, I said, yo, she's going to interview me one day. And this was 4 years ago. And we're here now, we're talking. So I'd be curious to know, like, talk to me about respect the artist. What was the inspiration behind it? When did you make the decision? When were you like, that's it?
Yeah.
And you're going to commit to it and stick to it. Like, talk to me about that.
Ooh, okay. So that was 2019, like January-ish or so. So I was still working in the government, right? And I reached a point where, I'll rewind a little bit. I was on a hiatus from Instagram and social media for almost 2 years. And something really came to me, you know, if we will. I'm a very spiritual person, but I will say something occurred, the simple way. I'm not sure what it was, but something occurred where I really wanted to lean back into what I loved. And I loved art, but I didn't want to show up on social media the way I used to. Right. So I had a little hustle energy back in them days, you know, like really trying to hustle and do work hustle, like, you know, really exert what I mean. That's what I mean by hustle. I'm really exerting a lot of energy. So, and that led to a crash and burn back in 2017, where I was just like, I can't do this. I can't try to carry a business, work. And so I understand about mental health and all of that. So I needed to say that, because I took a hiatus on social media, decided to immerse into social media again, but I wanted to show up different, right? And I took baby steps. So I asked myself, I actually remember this specifically. This is why I'm so like adamant about being intentional. I was not going to get back on social media unless I knew what the heck I was doing. Like, what am I getting on here for? Am I getting on here just for entertainment? And like, what will be the purpose? The first purpose was, I want to see art. All right. Took almost 2 years not doing jack. Okay. On there, not even showing up. And that was IG and Facebook. Those were my two like big ones that I was always on. So I decided to look at art. And because I took that hiatus, I was mind blown. See, when I was on social media before, I was all about me. I was all about my own art. I didn't look at anyone else's. Didn't care, right? Didn't care back then. I didn't really care. Not even for like inspiration. I was on a mission. Like I was like, yo, I gotta post, connect, message. It was all about what I was going to do. And I didn't explore anything else. Got back on and I was just like, oh my gosh, like that energy is still here now. Like, that's why I'm so excited, because every piece of art that I came across to me was a story of that individual. So it was like, whoa, all of these. So I started Dream Aloud Art, right? And all of this is leading to Respect the Artist. Started Dream Aloud Art. And the first thing that I was doing, first I was also making time to dive into my own art a little bit, right? So I was really interested in cello graffiti, which is wrapping cellophane around 2 posts and then doing graffiti on that. Y'all can look it up, like cello graffiti, cellophane graffiti. So I did that. I went to a little park and I had my GoPro camera and I was like, yeah, I'm going to like have fun with this. So I did a little bit of my artwork and shared it, but I was so interested in other artists. So I started to shout them out. I started to repost them. And a lot of artists were like, who is this chick with only 2 followers?
Yeah.
Who's she? Because like you're a nobody to them. Like, who is this random person, right? Like, because you don't have followers. So you're like, what? But the funny thing is, I'm still showing love and I've been doing that for years. The numbers have changed on social media, but it's always been love, right? And so that started to be a thing. Platforms started to grow. And then I decided, like, it's no fun doing this by myself. Like, how can I want to connect with artists, like, but I don't want it to be weird. So maybe I should, maybe there's like a community or something I can do. I'm not sure. So, I kind of went down that path of weighing things out. Then literally one day at work in my cubicle, and my sister also worked with me. We were on the same team in the headquarters of the commissary. So she sat literally 2 cubicles away from me. And so she knew that I was on this journey with the whole art thing, right? So I went up to her and, cause it hit me really strong. And I said, ooh, cause I was trying to think of like a name for this possible community. The first name was Respect the Arts. That was the first one. And I said, ooh, Respect the Arts. I like it, right? And she's like, okay. She's like, that sounds good. And then I literally went back to my desk and I was like, wait a minute, Respect the Artists. And I was like, ooh, that sounds good. It hit me. So if it hits me really strong, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start putting it out there. And that's how it happened. And that was the birthday of RTA is Valentine's Day. It had to be on Valentine's, but it's Valentine's Day. So February 14th in 2019.
That's amazing. And then, so you do Respect the Artist. You set it up.
Absolutely.
And you start to interview. Talk to me about how because that really is what got me, because I hadn't seen anyone interviewing artists. And you were interviewing artists that were big artists, and you were also interviewing artists who were coming up. Talk to me about the transition from interviewer to consultant and coach, and what motivated that change.
Okay. So, I mentioned earlier that I'm a very spiritual person. So I'm not giving information to feel airy-fairy. Okay. Sometimes that happens where it's like, oh, I've said that I'm spiritual. So now I'm going to say like, this specific thing happened. It's not really like that. At least not my journey. It's like a daily, just asking, is this what I need to do in this moment? Right. I'm not going to get super deep with that. So I also want to add that these things were not necessarily planned either. We can have the greatest plan and sometimes that plan will unfold, and we can also have the greatest plan and we can be rerouted. And so I've been rerouted at times and I have to trust that. So I feel like that's it's necessary to say. So yes, I'm a spiritual person, but I also have to reach a level of trust. And that's where confidence comes in that I'm so passionate about also speaking on, is to trust what you're doing is what you need to do. So interviewing, and now I just remember when you said that about the Oprah of Art, I paid me personally out my pockets. I paid to have an ad be circulated because I wanted to interview artists. And I want to go down a passionate tangent just real quick. That's why I get really worked up when artists are kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to pay to share something. right? And it's okay if you don't want to pay to share something, but that's not what I'm saying. I don't want to pay to share it because really at the core, you don't really believe that what you have is worth sharing. It's not that, it's something else. In some cases, they don't, in a lot of cases that I've come across, they don't really see the value in it. So they don't want to pay to share it. But when it has value, you will pay. Like I was paying to circulate that ad so I could interview artists for free, yo. Like I was like, yo, I just want to talk to y'all. Yeah. Okay, so that's just a little preface, perhaps. It's just I just wanted to mention that. Sure. Going back to interviewing and then teaching and consulting. So when I was working in the government, I was a certified instructor. I got my certification there. That certification allows me to teach in any area that I am an expert in, and I can do that anywhere. So I do have that look, Freed. When I got that certification, I was asking the instructor of that class, I said, so when I get certified, does that mean like I can only teach in the government? They said, no, you can teach anywhere. I was like, okay. Wow. I was like, just making sure because I may need this. Like I may need this after I leave here. That's what I was really trying to find out. But in the midst of doing interviews, I started off with the Instagram Live. And at first I was giving pointers and tips, right? So I was only doing one way, like a one-way thing where it's just me speaking to the audience. But then I was live one day, and then I saw an artist that I had messaged back and forth. I saw that he requested to join the live. And I was like, this was when live was very new, y'all, okay? Instagram didn't always have live. I hope some of y'all realize that. So I was questionable. I was like, he's requesting. I don't know if I want to add this person, right? Because it gets real. It's one thing to message and DM, but when somebody come through on like a FaceTime or like a live, and it's just like, like, uh-oh. Yeah. So I add him. His name is Rob. So I added Rob, and we had an amazing conversation. That's when I was like, ooh, maybe I can interview. So that was the start of the Instagram interviews. So now I'm having the interviews, the two-way conversations. And then not too much later, once again, I felt guided. I felt like I really needed to not pivot, but introduce another aspect of myself. And that aspect is the teacher. For when I have conversations with artists, sometimes when we have the voice of doubt, what I can advise now is when the voice of doubt comes in, first of all, we already recognize it's a voice of doubt. How do we know it's a voice of doubt? Because we're not at peace when we hear that thought. That thought feels disruptive. It feels disturbing. And when you realize that you're not at peace when that thought comes, when that voice of doubt comes, when you realize that, that is your power. That realization is your power. You have now identified an aspect of you that is not natural. And that's the voice of doubt. So I did have the voice of doubt come to me at the same time the thought of instructing came to me. And so I was able to just realize that. I'm like, ooh, so I was like, ooh, maybe I should try instructing. But then the voice of doubt, the thought that came after that, and I remember it very specifically was, but what do you know about art? See, I had been so immersed in the government world, Freed, that I forgot all the stuff I know about art. I mean, I done ran businesses with my art, selling my work. I had graphic shirts and boutiques that I used to sell. I mean, like I can go down the list, but a part of me was so in that world of the government that I put all the knowledge that I had, like I said, running the background. So sometimes when I meet people and I tell them what I do, or I start off, because I first of all say I'm an artist. It's very meaningful for me to communicate that. And then they respond and say, well, I don't really get into art or anything, but I think it's pretty cool. And then I always I'll tell them something to the degree of like, are you sure? Or I would say, oh, we could have a conversation about that. because I was so immersed that I forgot all the things that I knew. So that led into the instructing. And then by popular demand, if you will, I've noticed that artists are asking me questions specifically about specific things happening in their life. I even paid for ads, again, out of my own Bank of America, okay? Out of my own checking account. I paid to have a post circulate because I wanted to collect information for what artists were experiencing. I paid to have that like ads go out, like DM me free this, a free that, because I just wanted to know what they're experiencing also. But I did have a lot of artists just want to ask me questions. And so I was like, okay, I need to formalize this into more of a consultation or coaching aspect. So that's the timeline, if you will, when it came to interviewing and then instructing and then consulting also. And so I love the one-on-ones, and the two-way conversations. There's a completely different energy.
That's amazing. You said so much there, and it's a perfect segue into my next question.
Yes,
but some of the things I really like that you said was being open to being rerouted. And I feel like your confidence allowed you to do that and just trust what you're doing. That was something that really I loved, that stuck out. And when you talk about being open to being rerouted, the way that first interview happened was very much a reroute, and it wasn't necessarily planned, and it was like, look at where it led to. So that's something that I really love. Just be open to being rerouted and allow your confidence to lead you that way. And with that said, let's talk about, I want to explore just like some of the common mental roadblocks that the artists that you talked to face, because you said you wanted to collect info on what the artists were experiencing. And I know now AI art has been a big deal, right? So I know a lot of artists they're discouraged, right? So I don't know if you heard anything about that, but I would just be curious to know.
Yes, I have.
You have? Okay. Let's talk about some of those common mental roadblocks and some of the strategies that you've used to help artists overcome those hurdles.
Okay, so the biggest challenge, and also I'll just go ahead and say it. They believe that their talents and their gifts are finite, right? They think there's a cap. And because something, I know, come on, Freed, I'm about to hit. Yes, I'm gonna go hard on this one, boy.
Yes, let's go.
They believe that their talents is a means to an end after that. Like, oh, this thing has been introduced to the world and it's out to get me and my career. And I have seen examples where once artists catch wind of the abilities of AI, they shut the whole Instagram down. It's like, why? And that's a very extreme example, but it has happened. And so even though say a particular artist followed through and did something like that, others will just shut down from within. Others just won't post as much. Others, it really just goes back to what you teach and what you share, Freed, about your mentality, your mindset. Your mindset, y'all, like, it's really, that's their biggest challenge, I believe, is that they think that this is the end now, when it's really a beginning. Our gift, and artists, some artists have said this about, well, I'm good in art, but I'm not good in business. Y'all, our greatest gift is creativity. Using your creativity with your business. Use your creativity when you're introduced to a different challenge. Use that creativity, y'all. And when something is introduced to you to rock your world, sometimes it is a blessing. And some artists, if I'm gonna keep it even more real, need to put it down for a year. They need to take a hiatus for a year. Maybe this is that breakthrough where they're scared, craftless, right? They're just scared and they need to be shook so they can pivot. Like the quarantine, let me say that. Gosh, that was a huge blessing for me. Of course, we all had moments where we're about to pull our hair out. But guess what? I came out as an entrepreneur during the quarantine. I had to go through my own awakening right through a quarantine. But is this an end, or is this a beginning? Or is there does either one exist? Like, don't get me started. Okay, y'all, like, it's just a part of a continuing path, and you have a choice to decide and trust, right? We're going back to that confidence, which confidence, the etymology of that word means with faith, and faith means trusting. So if this has been introduced to my life, I have to trust that there's a reason why. And no matter how I move forward, I have to also trust that this is to work in my benefit. I may not see it right now. I may not see it in a month or even a year, but I have to trust if you truly believe that this is okay. How can I respond to this new thing with peace, right? AI can do any and everything, right? But if you respond to it with peace, and you accept it for what it is, that can also help enhance you trusting whatever you do after that. Like, y'all, come on now. So, like, artists have responded a lot of different ways to a lot of different things. Like, they responded a certain way when Adobe came into the picture, or when computers came into the picture, or when printers came into the picture. Like, what else is it that we're going to, all of a sudden freak out about? This is no time to freak out. Yeah. This is a time for us to excel, expand, and enhance our creativity. This ain't a time to sleep. Wow. And you know what? Freed, you already done got me started. Yeah. Some artists just be looking for a scapegoat anyway to put the pen down. Like, give me a reason. AI made me do it. Stop. Mm-hmm. Come on, y'all. We better than that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I get real worked up when artists we've had some conversations, and I'm just like, you don't stop being dramatic. Like,
yeah, you're bringing a fire right now. So somebody comes to you and they're having mental roadblocks. What is your goal? Okay. What is your goal? Like, where are you hoping to take this artist with so much potential, but they have this specific roadblock? Like, where are you taking them?
Strongest question, and it is the strongest question that I need to find out up front. What do you want? What do you want? So AI has been introduced to your life. First of all, what does it have anything to do with what you want? If you haven't established what you want, then what does AI have to do with anything? Because, like, okay, let me just, I'm just saying.
Because go ahead.
Listen, okay. Hey, you done got me fired up, Freed. Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna call you fired up, Freed. That's what's up. You done got me fired up. So example, a very simple example. Graphic designer who does logos. For this is, again, simple example. They do logos. And AI is now here, and AI can do a logo, and AI this and AI that, right? Did you even have or establish what it is that you desire to have happen with AI coming into the picture? Like, what did you even want to begin with? So if you don't have and I'm going to keep it super honest and super real. If you had no kind of business goal, no kind of consistent revenue or income or plan, then what does AI have to do with anything? Like, what, tell me, what did, like, so that is I've asked that question. I know you laugh. I've asked that question to certain artists, and they just look at me like, what do you mean? No, it's not a super deep question. It's for you to do some deep diving maybe, but it is a simple question. What is it that you want? Period. What is the thing you're working on? What is the thing you're working toward? Because if it's your goal to get from here to the mall, well, there's 1,000 ways you can get to the mall, boo. But you don't even know that you want to go to the mall. You haven't established that. And what does AI have to do with me getting to the mall? Like, nothing. Okay, so it's a hard mirror question. It is a mirror question where they have to look at themselves and ask, what am I doing here? Not what is AI doing what is AI's plan to attack me and take everything that I have?
It's hard to have that conversation with people. So that's why I wanted to ask you about AI, because as an artist that's in business, and we're going to transition to business.
Let's do it.
Because we talking about AI and oh, you dropped a powerful gem when you said that people are looking for a reason to not create. So it's like, oh, AI, never mind. And it just goes back to, what do you want?
When you're unshakable and firm in what you do, there's almost nothing that can stop you. Yeah. Like, I mean, y'all have to, and I love my artists. So sometimes I say y'all have to, but you don't have to, but y'all have to, you have to, or I will say I encourage artists to really, especially if you know that you live for this, right? When I hear artists say that art is life and all of that, if you know that is your primary purpose to walk this earth and do, you're unshakable. There's nothing that can stop you. You paint, then you paint. You got AI, great. AI is wonderful. How can I take AI and insert that in my life in a different way? Maybe for my marketing, maybe for my posts, maybe for a logo, but not for painting, because I do that. That's my job. You see what I'm saying? Like, when you're so set, that's a whole nother talk, Freed, about the things that have come in my life that test how firm I am about respect the artist. Partnerships, people who want to buy it out, who want to buy the business. Those are tests. And so, y'all, when you are so set and firm, that stuff doesn't even faze you because you're too busy worried about your purpose and your growth and impacting the world in powerful ways. You're not, that doesn't faze you as a threat. So, Freed.
Well, and unshakable.
Got me hollering.
No, that's what's up. You're just dropping a lot of bombs. And I was going to mention on top of that, what do you want? So what do you want and how bad do you want it? Right. So it's like when you, that's where the unshakable comes in, because you're going to get tested. But if you want it bad enough and you know what you want, you won't be shaken. So
bingo.
I really love that. Yeah. So we're gonna transition to the business of art.
Let's
we talked again, just bringing it back to the fear of business. Why are artists so quick to shy away from the business side of things? I know I've been quick to shy away from the business side of things. So talk about why.
Usually it's their idea of what business is. Okay. So the jobs that they've worked at, that's a big one. The jobs that they've worked at or they're working at. And they are carrying traumas from those jobs. And I use traumas not as a strong and severe word. It's just small, minute traumas and sometimes big traumas of those experiences with business. And they believe that they have to force aspects of their creativity or their aspects of business. They have to force it into that idea. And you don't have to do that. You are now the creator of the idea. You're creating a new idea of business. You're creating a new energy with business. Who are you doing business with? That's your choice. How do you set up a website? That's your choice. Do you even need a website? That's your choice. How do you want to market? That's your choice. Who do it's you are bringing a new energy to business. And that is usually the big hang up, is that they think that business is a shoebox and now they have to make it a shoebox, no, it doesn't have to be boring, dull. It doesn't have to be like you work with people you don't like. You don't have to set prices to a point where you are possibly duping people or tricking people. You can change that. You can change that. And so sometimes, Freed, when I remind an artist of how much power they have, especially talking about prices, they do one of two things. They either become very empowered and say, wow, I can set my own price. Ooh, I can market it the way I want to. I understand. Or they kind of shut down and get fearful because the idea of having so much free range is scary to them. They want to be given rules, they want to be given instructions instead of coming up with their own rules, coming up with their own system. Their own system, right? They want to be given a system, and that system may not fit them, but they want to be given that because it's a pattern. This kind of links to what I was saying about little traumas where it's like they have to be forced to do something. And so they're like, well, Electra, tell me what to do. Scary conversation I'll use as an example that I had with an artist that I've consulted. She was my client, and she still is my client. But we were having a meeting, and then she literally said, because I was explaining different things to her, like, oh, you'll have to go over your prices and come up with this, that, and the other. She said, wait a minute. I saw it. She's like, wait, just tell me what to do. And I said, no. I'm not going to tell you what to do. See, that you lose power like that. Like, you need to be, I needed for her to understand that she can come up with something. So I said, I'm not going to tell you what to do. What works best for you? So as we moved forward and said, what works best for you? She started coming up with ideas left and right, because she can now create that, so it's usually the ideas they have about business that feel very harsh, and they're against it. They resist those ideas, and that's fine. You should resist certain ideas, but look at it also as an opportunity to create your own. You know why? Because we're artists. And we can do that, right? Yes. We're creative, and we can be creative in many ways, and business is one of them.
I love how you said, I'm not going to tell you what to do. What works best for you?
I'm telling you.
Because it really does. It comes down to like, you're the creator.
Yes.
You're creating life, right? This is whatever. And we are like, I'm saying I've worked in corporate structures, and there is it's very systemic in the way that it's set up, and to where they make it to where you should be afraid to leave and go after your dreams.
Yep.
Right. So give me a gentle perspective to how you approach the business of art that any beginner can embrace.
Okay. So, there are variations to what artists are trying to do, and different points that they're at. There are a great segment of artists who have a huge financial backing, a lot of artists that have spouses supporting them financially. There are also artists who are supporting themselves and their families, and so with their art, so their positions and mentality and lifestyle is just very different. But I will say, starting off as an entrepreneur, in many cases, we're doing everything. Okay. We do everything. Okay. We do the work. We do we do the work. We do the marketing. We do the posting, and we set everything. This is a beautiful time. So I know we got to go through what we got to go through, right? So it may not seem very beautiful, but it's a beautiful time to learn what works best for you, because I got news for you, artists. Okay. If you don't know what's best for you, how you going to hire somebody to tell them what's best for the business? This is where you get your hands dirty, right? And I'm connecting back to my labor days, okay? Because I wasn't effective, and I say that with confidence and love, right? Not from an egoic viewpoint, but I was a kick butt manager and a kick butt instructor because I did the job. So when I got to those positions, I knew how to talk to the people, right? I wasn't above getting dirty, right? So even though I moved up the ranks and I was a manager, there were plenty of times I still needed to stock the shelves because we were short on people. There were plenty of times I still needed to run a register. There were plenty of times I still needed to get on that forklift and take product off of a truck. So this is a time you really have to find out what works best for you. And by the grace of God, I'm gonna say it. When I started hiring people, Freed, I could communicate what I believe is best for the business because I did it already. So how can you have these ideas? How can one have these ideas of like a bigger business aspect if you don't know what you want? If you don't know what the people you're about to tell them what to do, you don't really know what the end result is. And I say that because like I don't have the tech know-how of like, say, building certain platforms, right? Like an app or something. I couldn't do that myself. But what I can communicate is what I want. right? So I'd say for art, just the business aspect of art, you have to really tune in to what works best for you. Be open when you get to the point of hiring someone, be open to their ideas. And that's something I encourage with the people I hire is like, you're the pro in this area. I'm open to your ideas. This is what I've done. This is what I've experienced. You know why? Because I had my hands on it for years. Right. I mean, these were the prices I set, like, and so this is a prime opportunity to learn what works best for you, what works, what doesn't work, and experiment. A huge part of being a business owner is experimenting. You're going to have things you test and it just nothing happened. I can't tell you how many times I had an ad go out and it was like, I want my money back, but because nothing happened, like barely anything happened. But I had to test that out to have conversations like this or to train artists what not to do when they put an ad out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's a huge opportunity. It's a huge classroom. Life is a classroom. And look at that time as an entrepreneur, especially when your hands are on everything, learning opportunity. Sign up. It's another day of class, y'all.
Along the lines of just staying in business, let's talk about so I want to get into having a creative career and I want to sustain it. I want to make sure that I know obviously it's going to grow, but I want to have a long creative career. What are some practical tips on how an artist can get started in building a sustainable creative career?
Let's look at the survival aspect for one, right? The basic survival aspect of making sure that your money is in a good place. That is super huge. When I transitioned from being a full-time entrepreneur, I had a sufficient amount of income, but I will also encourage that that an artist knows how to manage their funds, because it doesn't matter how much money you got. What you doing with it, boo? It's critical to manage your funds and be responsible with your funds. So I would encourage, as far as a creative career, are you talking about more so in like working for a company? You cut out a little bit, the footage cut out a little bit. And so I missed a little bit. But I did catch about preparing for a creative career. Are you talking about as an individual or more of an entrepreneur?
Let's stick with the individual entrepreneur. These artists, artists want to get away from corporate. They want to own, right?
They want to throw the juice. Okay, so yes, all right, great. So we're on track. Making sure that they have finances, y'all. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real as far as making that transition, handing in the 2-week notice, and then now you're no longer getting a paycheck from a particular company. Yes, you do. It would behoove you to have 6 months to a year of your expenses saved. That's a real thing. I encourage y'all to make sure your money's good, because I don't want anyone hurting out here. And to be mindful about emotional responses before resigning. That's something else too. Be mindful of that. You will be tested if you haven't already been tested almost every single day that you sign in at work. Okay. You will be tested, especially when you know in your mind that I do plan on leaving here, but be wise from a survival aspect. Be wise to make sure that you are taken care of. Now, I will share a different aspect. Also working on mentally being prepared. So my experience of resigning, and transitioning, but I did, it was a transition, but yes, I resigned. So my transition of resigning was, I knew I had to do it, but man, it was scary. I will never tell anyone that it was easy. For years, for 18 and a half years of working with the government, I had always talked about being an entrepreneur, right? I always had a business. I was always working on something to get me up out of there, right? Right. But I kid you not, considering 18 and a half years, it is hard mentally from the age of 17 to be immersed in that world. I don't care how much money I had saved. When the 2-week paycheck didn't hit my bank account, I cried. It was so hard because I was used to that pattern. It was a rhythm of my life, and I didn't know how to act when the rhythm changed. So to be mentally prepared and understand like the 2-week paycheck. And here's the next thing. If you desire to be an entrepreneur too, you have to understand, and I want to say this to uplift artists, it ain't about getting paid every 2 weeks, boo. It's about getting paid every day. See it's about that. It's about that. Come on, Freed. It's about that deposit every single day, sometimes several times a day. It's time to upgrade, boo. We ain't gonna wait every two doggone weeks. That's too long. Okay. I need for y'all to make sure that bread is on the table and you and your family is getting fed. Like, that's just where I'm at with it. So it's to understand the rhythm's going to change, but for the better. That's a big one. That's a huge one. I've known, and I actually learned about another creative that also worked for the commissary at the headquarter level. He resigned and opened his own business. But it was hard. See, it was hard, and we had a little chat in the DMs. But I was so happy for him, and he's at a time right now where he's just like, "Dang, this is hard," but he wouldn't trade it to go back because that's a particular system. It's a system, and it's a system that has benefited me in many ways. Like, I've traveled the world. I've met a lot of amazing people. Like, I'm not here to tear it down. I learned a lot from that. But when you're in a certain world, right, you're in this particular mindset system, you're so used to a particular structure. Even if I was making 6 figures, I was making 6 figures. But I was still crying when every 2-week paycheck didn't happen. So I mentioned that just, as words of encouragement for artists that want to be an entrepreneur. Things are going to change. You're going to go through a process. If you know factually that this is where you need to be, like you know it, then trust that the struggles, if you will, are meant to pull the best out of you. Like, I can't have these conversations with artists without knowing what it's like. And that's something that they can feel. That's something they can feel. That can't be, I can't just like fake that. They know that I have been through. When I say I've been through it, they know. They're like, yo, she's not lying. She's telling the truth. So trust that when you're going through that, you got a story to tell. It's a 5-star movie, y'all. Yes, it's your time, your limelight. So learn from that. The transition for me was not easy. If, an artist has a smooth transition, maybe like I was talking to an artist who used to work at Starbucks and she wasn't there that long and she transitioned and that was smooth for her. And I was like, that's good. Shout out to you. Mine looked very different and that's okay because it has helped me in the capacity that I'm working in now. So that may not have been for her to like tell the story. It was just like, oh, okay, no problem. She trans great. That's good. Those are huge. Just really huge is the inner work for becoming an entrepreneur. Man, it's woo. And I know you can attest to that too when it comes to even just being an entrepreneur while working too. I love my artists. Let me say this too, Freed, because this is heavy on me.
Yeah.
It really concerns me when artists like hate the job that they're in. It concerns me because, and I've said, I had this little moment I was on a live on Instagram and an artist popped up in the comments. I was talking about jobs and things like that. And this artist was like, oh my God, I hate my job. Getting thumb happy and with the comments. I hate my job and I can't wait to leave that crappy place. And I was like, okay, first of all, and I just went ahead and said it. First of all, you don't have to be there if you don't want to. I know it's hard to hear that, but you don't. If it's really annoying as much as you say, go get another job, right? In the meantime, appreciate that job can also be helping you fund your dreams, right? When I resigned, I had money. The job helped me save money. I did the job, I got paid, I saved money, and thanks job. And a lot of people, because I was with the agency for so long, a lot of my colleagues were like, "Oh my gosh, what happened? Did they force you out?" And no, I mean, I was so blessed to say, you know what? It's just my decision. Yeah. Right. So don't shut these. I mean, you know, everyone has a different walk, but there's opportunity working at that job. You put in for it, right? That job didn't come to your house and drag you out. You put in for that job. You got the job. The job pays you and you're still there. So it can't be that bad. You know, you're still there. Take advantage of that. Yeah, another opportunity. I just get fired up, Freed, when folks be like, "I hate it." Well, boo, you ain't gotta be there. Like, I know it's hard to say. You don't have to be at that job.
You don't. And Electra, you just dropping bombs today. Make sure y'all go give Electra a follow. Dream Aloud Art. We'll have all the information here, because this has become like the definitive conversation for any artist that's considering a creative career path. And you dropped, and a lot of folks, when I asked about the practical tips, people shy away from the money part, but that's like the most important part, because it's survival mode, right? So that's amazing. So we're gonna get ready to land the plane here.
Yeah.
Talk to the people about where they could find you. What are some of your current projects? I'm gonna mute out. I'm just gonna let you do your thing. And just, you know, I could talk to you for we might have to like have multiple conversations, multiple interviews, because this is like
Freed.
Yeah, because it's a synergy, and it's like, wow, like you got a lot to teach. So I just really appreciate that, and I want to share. I'm happy to share your expertise and your energy with the community. So yeah, I'll mute out and just talk to us about where we can find you and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely have to say thank you so much, Freed, for this opportunity to just have this conversation with you. You're an excellent interviewer, and I do look forward to future conversations, you know, should you desire that. So thank you so much. It has been my pleasure. As far as communicating with me directly, the best and simplest way is to follow me at Dream Aloud Art on Instagram. Whether you just want to say hey, or if you do have a question about something heavy on you, you know, something like, you know, how like business wise, I can route you in different directions. Respecttheartist.com, and that's with an S, Respect the Artists. Respecttheartist.com has everything that you need as far as growth, training, community, and you can learn more about speaking engagements and things like that I've done. We also have the RTA Awards. So it's just all-in-one platform for artists. But especially with this talk that we're having, I do encourage you to not only just follow me. Follows are great, but DMs are more powerful because we can start a conversation. So yes, if you want to reach out, just send me a message and we can start chatting.
That is amazing. At Dream Aloud Art, follow at Dream Aloud Art. The energy is like, it can't be explained, and it's very infectious in a good way. So we're going to continue to spread good energy, pay it forward. I'm very excited to get this interview out. This is like, you said things, it usually takes me a few weeks to get it out, but like there are things that you said and I was like, no, people need to hear this today. So I'm just like, wow, like, cause I needed to hear. I was like, oh yeah, you know what? Yeah. So I really appreciate you. I do believe we're going to have more conversations, because this was just really dope. So thank you for coming on, Dream. I appreciate you.
Yes. Peace. Love y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Appreciate y'all for coming through The Art of Being Free, dropping new episodes every week. Make sure you like this video. Leave a 5-star review if you're listening on the podcast. Until next week, this is Freed with The Art of Being Freed. I will see you soon. Peace.